Welcome to another edition of LaborVision Podcast. I'm your host, James Dennis. America First, Workers First, and LaborVision presents the 2020 Vision for Labor. What's up, Charles? How you doing? My co-host, Charles Daniels.
Jimmy Dennis, I'm doing absolutely fantastic.
That's cool. Hey, great to see you. We are here to engage, educate, and energize you for this 2020 election and for really all elections, to keep people educated so we can get them motivated, so we can do all that other good stuff that we do. New podcast and new YouTube video every Friday. So we need you to like, share, and subscribe. It is very, very important to like, share, and subscribe, because I have people that talk to me and say, man, I didn't know you had that many podcasts out. And then they started listening to them. And they're like, man, it's really, really good stuff. So let's keep this good stuff going. Charles, who we got today, man?
We have Miss Margaret Cook. She is the CWA Vice President for the Public Healthcare and Education Workers sector. She is absolutely amazing. Hey, Margaret.
Hey, everybody. I'm really excited to be on the podcast.
We are excited to have you. I met you at convention last year, and Margaret is one of those people that after you meet her and talk to her for 5 minutes, it feels like you've known her for years. It's this really rare ability that she has to connect and just talk to people. So I'm a big fan of yours. I've been watching you. You say super duper busy.
Yeah, because I am the only national vice president for CWA. So my sector encompasses all of the districts. So I would say about 60% of my job is travel.
Could you explain exactly what is, the acronym is PHEW, correct? Public Healthcare and Education. Can you explain what that is?
Right. So across the country and also in Puerto Rico, CWA represents workers from the public sector, meaning like anywhere from caseworkers to nurses to teachers, faculty, students, pretty much anything that falls under the purview of public sector work, healthcare work, and education work. If those classifications are within CWA, they fall under that sector.
So that's a tough gig right now. I mean, there's been a lot of teacher strikes recently. There's been a lot of bargaining for the greater good, which I think is very interesting. Can you kind of talk us through how things are going for you right now, how the fight's going?
Well, we currently have around 140,000 members across the country, and we are working with the Bargaining for the Common Good group on education issues as well as other issues facing healthcare. We also partner with other community groups across the country, and UPD, which is one of our largest locals, is leading the fight out in California on education reform. Excellent. And higher education.
And that is a big struggle right now. For some reason, we've decided that teachers are where we can cut a lot of times when it comes to budget and trying to get money back on things.
Right, and they're our most important job.
Sure,
because
and
they're educating
as well,
right,
taking care of people. Yeah, I mean, it's really a sector that you think would be prioritized, but for whatever reason, it often gets overlooked. And I think a lot of people don't realize that those are union positions right there, and that they do bargain for the common good, where it's not just we're trying to make things better for our workers, it's we're trying to make things better for the entire community and all workers.
Right.
Right. Well, I come out of United Campus Workers in Tennessee, and I was a vice president prior to this of the Memphis chapter. And one of the things that we fought for was raising the minimum wage at the University of Memphis, and how unique it was in that, yes, it would support the 332 workers that needed to be raised above that threshold. But when you thought about the fact that the University of Memphis was the fourth largest employer in the city, and the city was 65% African American, and also one of the most poorest cities in this country. Wow. Right? So all the impact of those workers receiving a wage increase would not just affect their paychecks. It would affect their communities. It would affect their neighborhoods, because these people would have more money to sink into their housing, rehabilitation. Memphis is notorious for its blight issues. So when you think about negotiating wage increases, it's not just simply for the money. It actually affects the whole city.
And when you take those people and you give them a fair wage, you mentioned, Jimmy and I talk about this all the time, that they immediately go and put that money right back into the community where they're going out and having dinner with their family, where they're getting their kids into a recreational sport. They contribute. It's not being stored away where if you give that money to the top 1% that it gets hidden, it gets taxed, offshored, it gets tax sheltered. There's no hiding of it. It's just being spent. It's a cycle.
Right.
And it's a ripple effect also, because you have to think that when those single black mothers no longer have to work two jobs to support their families because they can sustain off of one income, that means that their children get more parental time. That means that grades in schools go up, right? There's more interaction. I mean, they're able to go to the doctor and spend the money on the co-pays, right? So then communities are healthier. It really does boil down to it's all connected.
You know what? This just doesn't make sense because we're still talking about teachers, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And the thing is, you just mentioned about they don't have to go work another job. They go to college to get the teacher's job, right? To be an educator. And yet they get put in a position that they have to work two jobs because we don't want to pay them enough money. That's just wrong.
Or healthcare workers as
well. Healthcare workers as well. That's just flat out wrong.
So you take these two groups, and one is caring for our children that are coming up, that are the future, and then you have this other group that's taking care of the elderly, who are the ones that paved the way for us to be here and now, and both of them are getting left behind. And it's like they get you coming and going.
Yep, and they working two jobs. Yeah. They have to work. And to your point, Margaret, it's like they need to have time with their kids. They need to be able to be less stressful, because if I'm working, I'm thinking I would be stressed completely out working two jobs. Seriously. I mean, you got to leave one job to go to another. When I leave my job, I'm leaving the job. I'm like, yes, it is time to quit, right? So, oh man, great job on your fighting. Great job.
Yes, and for this particular sector, we're unique in that we are pretty much the only people who have the ability to elect our own bosses, because you understand that budgets are set by local and municipal and state governments, right? So if the the amount of money that they're giving, say, to the University of Memphis, right, was increased, then the University of Memphis wouldn't have put up such a fight in order to increase the wages. That's what we're hoping, right? But it's up to us as the public to engage not only our union members, but everyone that we talk to, right? To talk to them about voting and how important voting is simply just for our jobs and for their care. Because as people who care for the public, if those services are cut, that means our jobs are cut, but then that also means that the public suffers.
Right.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you're facing right now?
The biggest challenge that we're facing, I would say, it's so many different fights, right? But I think our number one challenge is fighting back against right to work in the public sector, right? Because when public sector employees and workers don't have an opportunity to bargain or to have contracts, their lives are made just that much more difficult on the job, right? So one of the things that CWA is fighting for is the Public Service Freedom to Organize Act, right? And we call it Public Service Freedom. And it would be a federal bill that would pass through the House and hopefully through the Senate. I mean, that's why Senate races are so important.
Right.
To allow public service workers to organize and to and unionize. So maybe in New York and New Jersey, where they already have that right, it wouldn't be that serious for them to pass it. But when you think of like District 3, which is the South, right, all of those states in the South, and you think of parts of District 7, which is like the Midwest and the West, those people are currently under right to work laws under the state. If they had the federal ability to organize, it could change lives across the country. So we're really fighting for that, as well as the PRO Act. But I would like to point out that the Public Service Freedom to Organize Act actually has more representatives signed on than the PRO Act. So it should be coming up for a
Wow.
vote in April. So we're really putting a push out there for our representatives and for our members to know that this is coming up. So shortly, my Facebook page is constantly full of information. Shortly,
I'm watching that.
you'll start to see a big push for the Public Service Freedom Act. And it's very important for us to realize that not everyone has the same rights
Right.
when it comes to employment. And for those people who care, like you said, for the elderly in Texas, we have a large group of African immigrants who are working in the hospitals, the extended care hospitals in Texas, who have no rights, are making $12 an hour. And so that means that there's a high turnover. So who's caring for your loved ones?
Right.
Which is extremely important. And I think CWA has done an amazing job this election cycle of putting these at the forefront. When it came to the PRO Act, there was a very hard line made there that if you don't support the PRO Act, then CWA doesn't support you. Is that the same angle or trajectory they're going to take with the public version of this?
Absolutely. And I think for the public sector, we're really going to ramp that up. Because, again, these people are our bosses. And we also elected them. So if they're not going to be on the side of labor, then don't come to labor asking for money. Don't
Right.
come to labor asking us to go out and hit and knock on doors for you, because
Right.
that is what labor will do.
Yes.
Organizing, canvassing groups, and phone banking, that is part of who we are as a labor movement. So if you don't support us, we're certainly not going to support you.
I think President Chris Shelton, who's the president of CWA, has done a fantastic job of just making that a hit or a miss. Either you're with us or you're not. Don't
Right.
come looking for help if you're not willing to really be there and stand up for workers when they need it. So kudos to him.
Now, can you?
And that goes across the board. I mean, we are not tied to any political party. Whoever supports labor, we support them,
Right.
right? And we have to understand that, like with Representative McBath in Georgia, I was completely shocked that she voted against the PRO Act. And so there was a demonstration outside of her office by CWA
Good.
members, because we're not
Good.
going to tolerate it.
I saw a bunch of those, and they were excellent. And this was an act. The PRO Act did pass with bipartisan support. There were Republicans that voted yes on the PRO Act.
Yeah, they did. Now, can you? What? Now, the name of this act again is what? And do you have a number attached to it, or there's no number attached to it? Do you know?
I do have a number attached to it.
Great. Can we get
Give
that?
me- I will get that number to you in 2 seconds, but it's called the Public Service Freedom to Organize. Let me just double check that. I'm sorry. I'm still
No. You're
wrapping
good.
my
You're
head.
good. We
I've
want,
been in
we,
the
want
position.
we want our listeners to know what we're talking about and to support it. I mean, even if you're not a public sector worker, support this. Don't just sit back and say, "Oh, it doesn't have anything to do with me." It does. It really does. So all of us should support this. Even if you're not a union worker, support this. This is about workers' rights. We got this thing called industry standard. Once the standard is set, everybody kind of rolls on that standard, whether you're union or not. And one of the reasons why it does that is because they don't want a union to come in because they're paying too low. So they rather pay you more money, like the union wages, to keep the union out than not. But if the standard is low, we have nothing to work with.
And what amazes me is you look at these CEOs or these people that are in high positions, they all have contracts. They would never agree to work in one of those positions without having a contract that had severance pay.
We're the golden parachute.
Exactly. But when it comes to the people who need the protection the most, they believe that they shouldn't have a contract. So it makes just no sense to me whatsoever.
No contract for you.
Essentially, yes. So what else is going on over with the public health care and education workers, Margaret?
Oh, did we lose her?
No, you didn't lose
Okay,
me.
woo.
I was actually just still looking for the information that you asked me for.
Look, you scared me.
But it is called the Public Service Freedom to Negotiate
That's
Act.
good.
So
That's
I was
good.
right.
That's good.
Yay. And it gives public employees and supervisors the right to form, join, or assist in a union, to bargain collectively, and to engage in other activities for the purpose of collective bargaining. Right? And it authorizes employers to deduct fees to the union
That's a
from their
big one.
payroll.
That's
Now,
a
that's
big
a big one.
Yep, that's a big one.
because I don't know. I went from a union job in New York to a job in Memphis, Tennessee, where the lead organizer had to come and ask me for my banking information. Can you imagine giving someone you never met before in your life that type of control? It takes a level of trust, does it not, to realize that, this is the only way that I'm going to be part of a union is to be able to just trust these people.
Now,
And it creates a closer relationship as well. But it would be beneficial for all unions if the right to deduct fees from payroll was present in every single state.
now, you know what? Would that bill be Senate 1970 and HR 3463? Does that sound familiar?
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay, cool. Great. So it is Senate Bill 1970 and it is HR House Bill 3463. So please keep an eye on it. Call your representative. Tell them they need to support that bill, please.
And I'm imagining the genesis of this comes from the Janus Ruling.
Yes.
That was a bad ruling right there. It took a lot
Can
of
you
rights
explain
away.
the Janus Ruling? One of you, just so our listeners can just give a quick little, just what that ruling, what was about? Because some people who listen to podcasts don't know.
Charles, how about you give it a stab?
Sure. So Janus is essentially the equivalent of right to work for public sector workers, right? The idea that you no longer have a closed shop, getting rid of the closed shop era, so that they are able to opt out of paying dues, which to the credit of the union members, they've done an amazing job of holding together because they understand that their strength comes from their solidarity. So
Right.
My understanding is there haven't been a lot of people that have opted out of paying dues, but it creates the freeloader aspect to a union where someone can opt out of paying dues, but you're still required by law to represent them. You have to treat them like they're a dues paying member in regards to representation, bargaining, all of those things right there. So they get all the benefits of being a union member without any of the costs associated with it. Is that a nutshell encompassing of it?
That pretty much gets it in a nutshell. And it affected public sector employees.
Yes.
Right.
And I always make the comparison that imagine that as an American, if there was anything at all that happened that you decided, I don't agree with this and I'm not going to pay taxes anymore because I don't agree with this decision that
we
was
can do
made.
that?
But I still want to go to the parks. I still want my children to be in the public schools. I still want to drive on the roads. I still want to take advantage of getting my mail delivered.
I can do that?
No, you can't.
Oh, okay. I thought you was telling me something new. I was going to say, really?
The country would fall apart
Yes, it would.
if that happened. So we decided as a society, as a democratic republic, that when we make decisions as a group, that whether you like it or not, we go along with it because we've decided as a group that that's what's in our best interest.
We the people.
So why would people in the union that make those decisions at work not have those similar rights? And it's because these corporations, these companies, they're trying to union bust. That's all that Taft-Hartley was. It was union busting. It was because after World War II, in 1945 and 1946, you had around 2 million Americans that ended up in strikes and labor disputes, and it scared these companies. And because of that, they enacted Taft-Hartley, and it took away a lot of the ability to strike. It created right to work. It got rid of the closed shop era in the United States. And ever since then, we've been on the decline as far as union membership. And now you see the drastic swells in income inequality that come from that. Unions create good middle class jobs, and they also raise the rates for the ancillary companies that are around them.
So you know what? You all ought to check out American Workers First Union Facts Friday, because you did a Union Facts Friday on this. Like, share, and subscribe. So we're just going to throw that thing out there. But look, here's where we're at now. We are at the point where we need to know, Margaret, what is your 2020 vision for labor?
My 2020 vision for labor is to get this Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act passed and to organize. The only way we're able to win is if we have strength in numbers, right? And there are so many workers out there who don't even know that a union is even possible in their classification. So it is my goal to organize as many pockets of members across the country as possible. If we have 911 operators in Memphis, Tennessee, and in Puerto Rico, then that means we can have them in Nevada and we can have them in Illinois. Do you understand? So it is my goal to just organize, and to listen to the people. I like to say that my position is a member-led position, right? So I'm only going to do what the people want me to do and what's in their best interest. And we need more people thinking along those same lines, especially in public government.
All right.
Preach, sister, preach. And Chris, as President Shelton says, when we fight,
And vote.
we win.
For God's sake, please vote. I don't care if you don't think your vote matters. I don't care who you're voting for. Walk into that booth and let your voice be heard, because more than likely it's affecting someone in your family how you're voting.
All righty. I guess that's a wrap on this podcast, huh?
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, Margaret. You're fantastic.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
Hey, take care. And don't forget, every Friday we drop this out. American Workers First and LaborVision every Friday. So check us out. Subscribe, like, and share. Until next time.
I certainly will send it out.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Till next time, take care. Have a good one. Peace out.